Mr Speaker, I move that the Oversight of the Oranga Tamariki System Legislation Amendment Bill be now read a first time. I nominate the Social Services and Community Committee to consider the bill, and at the appropriate time I intend to move that the bill be reported to the House by the 6th of March 2025. Mr Speaker, the purpose of the bill is to strengthen the independent monitoring of the Oranga Tamariki system, or children's system, and make it crystal clear to children and young people who their advocate is. The Oranga Tamariki system is defined as the system that is responsible for providing services and support to children, young people and their families or whānau under or in connection with the Oranga Tamariki Act or the Children's and Young Persons Wellbeing Act of 1989. The oversight of the children's system was changed significantly in 2022 and two acts were introduced. The Oversight of the Oranga Tamariki System Act 22 established the Independent Children's Monitor as the independent monitoring agency of the children's system and appointed the Ombudsman to investigate issues in the system as well as handle complaints about the system. At the same time, the Children and Young Persons Commission Act 22 established the Children and Young Persons Commission, equipping it with the functions, duties and powers to protect and advocate for the interests and wellbeing of all children and young people who have interacted with the system. This bill, Mr Speaker, intends to amend the Oversight of the Oranga Tamariki System Act and Children and Young Persons Commission Act, specifically to transition the monitor from a departmental agency to an independent Crown entity with a small multi-member board, and the Children and Young Persons Commission from an independent Crown entity led by a multi-member board to an independent Crown entity led by a single Children's Commissioner. Feedback on the 22 Oversight of Oranga Tamariki System and Children and Young Persons Commission Bill raised concern about the monitor's independence, suggesting that a departmental agency might not be as fully independent of political considerations. This bill responds to those concerns that were raised by many submitters and will change the institutional arrangements of the monitor to an independent Crown entity to further strengthen its independence. This bill requires experience and knowledge from the monitor's board members to ensure that they possess the necessary skills and knowledge, such as quality assurance, data governance and a strong understanding of the care system to assume these important roles. Feedback on the 22 Oversight of the Oranga Tamariki System and Children and Young Persons Commission Bill also emphasised the idea of having a single individual acting in the role of advocate, in other words, having a clear Children's Commissioner. This bill addresses this concern, again, that was raised by multiple submitters, very strong community views, and so this bill addresses the concern by disestablishing the current 5-member board model of the Commission and returning to a single Children's Commissioner. The value in having two distinct roles and voices in the oversight system cannot be overstated. The Independent Children's Monitor plays the role of neutral observer and reporter, and the Children's Commissioner has a separate role in amplifying the concerns and advocating strongly on behalf of children, young people and their whānau. Keeping the monitor separate from the advocate role of the Children's Commissioner will help ensure that their work continues to be impartial, which of course is vital to its role. However, I acknowledge that the Monitor, the Children's Commissioner and the Ombudsman are only part of the oversight of the children's system and need to work collectively to give effect to their separate but complementary functions. For the Monitor to perform its role well and to influence change, it needs to have the trust of communities and to be a trusted advisor to government, independent of any specific policy positions or considerations. Equally, to be an effective advocate, the Children's Commissioner often needs to take and promote a strong position, sometimes publicly. The Children's Commissioner must be able to do this freely and without fear of impacting the work of the Monitor. The Monitor and the Commission, along with the Ombudsman, are also working closely together to ensure the monitoring, advocacy and complaints roles are properly joined up to best support our most vulnerable children and young people. These agencies are taking a no wrong door approach, which means regardless of which agency is approached, either for complaint or for feedback, they will direct people to the right place. The bill also covers consequential and transitional arrangements for the Monitor and the Commission to ensure smooth transition of functions. I'm sure, Mr Speaker, every member of the House will recognise how important the work is both of the Monitor and of the Commission. So to minimise any disruption to both entities' work, the bill provides that the Chief Executive of the Monitor will continue as Chief Executive of the new independent Crown entity from 1 year from commencement date. And similarly, the current Chief Children's Commissioner will also become the Children's Commissioner for 1 year from the commencement date of the bill. Continuing the current Chief Children's Commissioner's role will help to build on the visibility of the position and strengthen their existing relationships with children and young people, which of course is critical to the success of their role. The timing of our changes addresses and complements some of the findings that were provided in the final report of the abuse in care that was the Royal Commission of Inquiry. A key finding of the report is that the state failed to ensure that there was robust independent oversight and monitoring of all care settings that interacted effectively for people at risk, and that robust and independent oversight and monitoring is a critical way of ensuring that care providers fulfil their duties to people in care, including detecting when they are not complying with applicable laws, regulations, policies, or providing safe and quality care. This view was shared by many, including the Human Rights Commission, which in its final report noted, and I quote, "Independence is crucial for the Independent Children's Monitor to achieve its objectives of providing objective and impartial monitoring of the Oranga Tamariki system. A monitor that is not completely independent of government will struggle to gain the public trust and confidence that is necessary to address the failures of abuse in care," end quote. Mr Speaker, many people will not be surprised by these two simple but very important changes to the oversight of the Oranga Tamariki system. There was very clear feedback when the 22 legislation was introduced and open for submissions, so we are resolving two of the issues that were very strongly submitted on at the time. Mr Speaker, overall this bill strengthens the independent monitoring of the Oranga Tamariki children's system and makes it crystal clear to children and young people who their advocate is. Mr Speaker, I commend this bill to the House.
Now, just before we sit there and get to speak about the bill, so I've just posted. Okay, I'm taking over that comment. All late fees payable to 38-9023-0800-167-00. It's in the ballot productions if you want to send any late fees our way.
You spelt it prosecutions? were you thinking of what's going to end up happening to the government when they go, look, we want to make sure that we don't repeat the same mistakes from the abuse and state care report, but we're going to allow corporal punishment for those kids that are in the boot camp?
This is what happens when you and D are next door to each other on the keyboard. Make sure you put a D instead of S, otherwise the banking system might not let it go through. So, what's the basis of the bill have you got from it? Because I'm none of the wiser, to be honest.
It actually sounds to me a little bit like a shell game. And you know, we're just going to move things around and you don't need to look at where things are going, but things are being moved around so we can say we made progress. And you know, Labour bad. Because this is what Labour did, so we're just swapping things around because Labour bad.
You're very quiet.
You're
even more quiet with a microphone that's not working.
If it helps, you could do it all in interpretive dance.
You could do sign language. No, you're on the screen. There's no such thing called backstage or restream, because if you're backstage, it's that. And when you're on stream, it's that. So maybe that's your microphone. You've set there and told it to mute, because on our end it says you're going through. Okay, it looks like while we're waiting from there, let's see what Willa Jean Prime's got to sit there and say in response while Frosty sorts out his microphone.